The nursery on level 7 of the Galactic Coalition station hummed with a sound that made even the most hardened security officers wince. It wasn't quite a scream, nor was it a wail. It existed somewhere in the frequencies that bypassed rational thought and drove straight into the primitive brainstem, triggering every flight instinct evolution had programmed into sentient beings. Daniel Rodriguez pushed his cleaning cart down the sterile white corridor, whistling softly to himself. The sound from the nursery didn't bother him the way it bothered everyone else. After 3 years as a single father to twin girls back on Earth, he developed an immunity to distressed infant noises that bordered on superhuman. "Human Daniel," Orla's voice crackled through his comm unit, strained and desperate in a way he'd never heard from the Zephyrian station administrator before. "Please, I require your assistance in Nursery Complex 7. Daniel changed direction immediately. Orla never asked for help. The tall, crystalline-skinned administrator prided herself on solving problems with logic, efficiency, and the kind of cool competence that came naturally to her species. If she was asking him, a janitor, for help, things must be truly dire. The nursery doors slid open, and Daniel was hit with a wall of noise that would have sent most humans running. Inside, Orla stood among 12 floating cradles, her usually pristine silver robes disheveled, her facial crystals flickering with stress-induced light patterns. Around her, 3 other caregivers from various species looked equally defeated. "They haven't slept in 73 hours, Orla said without preamble. Her large eyes, usually so composed, were dilated with exhaustion. "We've tried everything in the Coalition childcare protocol. Temperature adjustments, atmospheric modifications, nutrient variations, sonic frequency alterations. Nothing works. Their parents are diplomats at the Peace Summit, if we cannot settle them." She didn't need to finish. Daniel understood. The Peace Summit between 4 previously warring species was the most important diplomatic event in a generation. If the delegates' children were suffering, the whole thing could collapse. Daniel approached the nearest cradle. Inside, a small Vraxian infant, all tentacles and bioluminescent spots, writhed in clear distress. The next cradle held twin Koltari cubs, their fur standing on end. There were Zephyrian infants like Orla, Drevish hatchlings, and others from species he couldn't immediately identify. "May I?" Daniel asked. Orla gestured helplessly. "At this point, human, you may attempt anything that doesn't violate Coalition medical ethics." Daniel began to hum. It was the same tune he'd hummed to his daughters when they were infants, when nothing else would work during those endless 3 a.m. colicky nights. He didn't know the name of it. Maybe his own mother had hummed it to him once. It didn't matter. What mattered was the rhythm, the steady repetition, the underlying promise that someone was there and everything would be okay. He moved to the Vraxian infant first, gently placing his hand near, not on the cradle's edge. The baby's tentacles immediately reached toward the warmth of his hand. Daniel started a slow, rhythmic rocking motion with the cradle, matching his humming to the movement. "What is that sound?" asked Prex, one of the Koltari caregivers, her ears flattening against her head. "Just a song," Daniel said softly, moving to the next cradle. "Kids don't care if it's good, they just want to know someone's paying attention." He noticed something the others had missed. The nursery, for all its technological sophistication, was too perfect. The temperature never varied, the lights never dimmed, the air never stirred. It was a sterile environment designed by beings who'd forgotten what it meant to be small and helpless in a big universe. "Orla, can you lower the lights by 40%? And drop the temperature 3 degrees. But the protocols specify." "Trust me." Something in his voice must have convinced her. The lights dimmed. The temperature dropped. Daniel continued moving from cradle to cradle, humming that nameless tune, giving each infant a moment of focused attention. He rocked some. He made silly faces at others. For the Drevish hatchlings who responded to motion, he did a little shuffling dance that made them track him with their multiple eyes. You're using different techniques for each one, Orla observed, moving closer. The protocols suggest standardized care procedures. Kids aren't standardized, Daniel said, gently bouncing a Zephyrian infant whose crystals were flickering rapidly. This one needs movement. That one over there needs stillness. The twins need to see each other. Can we push those cradles closer? As Orla adjusted the cradles, Daniel explained. When my girls were Bobbies, I learned that all the books and rules in the world don't matter as much as just watching what each kid needs. My daughter Maria would only sleep if you held her. Elena needed to be put down in her crib with space around her. Same parents, same house, completely different people. He was at the Koltari Cubs now. They'd been the loudest, their distress calls designed by evolution to cut through forest canopies and summon parents from miles away. Daniel knelt by their cradle, making himself small and non-threatening. He noticed their breathing was fast, almost panicked. They're scared, he said. Look at their pupils. They're not tired, they're afraid. Afraid of what? Prex asked. We've eliminated all potential threats. That's the problem. Daniel gestured around the pristine nursery. Where I come from, we learned that Bobbies sleep better with a little noise. Complete silence makes them anxious. They need to know the world is still there, still safe. He pulled out his portable music player, ancient technology by station standards, but it was what he could afford. He scrolled through and found what he was looking for: ambient sounds, rain, wind, distant voices, the hum of life happening nearby. As the gentle sounds filled the nursery, the change was immediate. The Koltari cubs' breathing slowed. The Vraxian infants' tentacles stopped their agitated waving. One by one, the infants began to settle. Daniel kept moving, kept humming, kept making small adjustments. He turned some cradles to face each other. Social species needed to see they weren't alone. He adjusted others to face the walls. Solitary species needed to feel protected from exposure. He asked Orla to add a slight, almost imperceptible rocking motion to the room's gravity field. This is not in any protocol, Orla murmured, but she made the adjustment. Protocols are written by people who already know how to sleep, Daniel said. Bobbies have to learn, and different species probably learn different ways, but I'm betting some things are universal. Safety, comfort, knowing someone cares. The first one to sleep was one of the Zephyrian infants. Her crystals stopped flickering and began to glow with a soft, steady light. Then the Vraxian infant's tentacles relaxed completely. The Koltari cubs curled around each other, finally still. Within 20 minutes, every infant in the nursery was asleep. The other caregivers stared in amazement. Orla's crystals pulsed with an emotion Daniel had learned to recognize as profound respect. How did you know? She asked quietly. Daniel smiled, thinking of his girls back home, probably asleep in their beds while his ex-wife handled the bedtime routine tonight. Because I'm a dad, and because at the end of the day, whether you've got tentacles, fur, crystals, or skin, a baby is a baby. They just want to feel safe. Orla looked around the now peaceful nursery, then back at Daniel with his janitor's uniform and his ancient music player. The coalition has dozens of xenopediatric specialists, millions of credits in research, and the most advanced childcare technology in known space. Yeah, Daniel agreed. And it took a human single father with a mop to solve what they could not. Daniel chuckled softly. Sometimes the low-tech solution is the right one. We humans, we've been figuring out how to get Bobbies to sleep for thousands of years, long before we had fancy protocols. He glanced at the sleeping infants. Every parent in the galaxy is winging it, Orla. We're all just doing our best. Orla's crystals flashed in a pattern Daniel had learned meant deep thought. I am writing a new protocol. It will include your techniques, but more importantly, it will include a notation that caregivers should observe, adapt, and trust their instincts as much as their instruments. That's not very Zephyrian of you, Daniel teased gently. No, Orla agreed. It is very human, perhaps that is not a bad thing. As Daniel prepared to leave, Orla stopped him. The summit continues for another 3 weeks. Would you consent to be assigned to nursery duty during that time? I will arrange for your standard custodial duties to be covered. Daniel thought of the overtime pay, of what it could mean for his daughter's college funds. But more than that, he thought of these little ones, so far from their parents, so far from home. Yeah, he said, I can do that. As he left the nursery, the soft sounds of sleeping infants behind him, Daniel smiled. The galaxy was a big, complicated place full of species he was still learning about. But some things, it seemed, were universal. Every child deserved someone who cared enough to figure out what they needed, even if that someone was just a janitor with a mop and a memory of singing to his own bobbies in the dark.